Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Kindred Souls of Brooklyn, and welcome to another episode of Brooklyn Secrets. And I'm here in the Magic Kingdom, folks, and it's hard to believe that it was really close that Walt Disney actually opened the Magic Kingdom in Brooklyn. He had thought about it, he had gone to see Coney Island. It's a really interesting story, so stay tuned, hope you enjoy it. It should be a lot of fun. We'll talk about Disney, Brooklyn Secrets, and the Magic Kingdom. Think about how different our lives would have been had Walt opened the Magic Kingdom in Brooklyn. Would have changed my life for sure, that's for darn sure. All right, stay tuned. So Walt Disney took a trip to Coney Island way back in about 1953, and he actually really seriously considered opening up the park down there, and he wanted to buy Coney Island, and then oddly enough, he had rethought that idea, because if you remember your history, the property in Florida wasn't really purchased till around the time he died, which was 66, and really solidified in 67. So he had rethought opening in Brooklyn, and don't forget, he had a very large presence in the World's Fair in 64 and 65. They had a lot of attractions that they opened there, which Disney had created. He had a very strong imprint on that fair. So few people realize or remember that Walt had a tremendous imprint on the 1964-65 World's Fair, and in my opinion, that would have been his greatest window of opportunity to open in New York, in Brooklyn actually, in Coney Island, which is where he wanted to open, because if you remember, Coney Island was the Disney World of its day. But if you think back to the World's Fair, he met a lot of important people there who were actually very important in the building of Disney World. For instance, Joe Potter, who actually built most of Disney World, General Joe Potter. But if you think about all the attractions that Walt was responsible for at the 64-65 World's Fair, you know, he built the Ford Fairway for Ford. He built the Carousel of Progress for General Electric. He built for Pepsi, It's a Small World. And also, he built Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln for the state of Illinois. And if you think about it too, the carousel that's here in Walt Disney World is actually from New Jersey. So, you know, and I think what was so sad about actually opening it in Florida for him or for maybe the company was, of course, that Walt never got to see the Magic Kingdom open here in Florida. He died in 66. This didn't open until 71. Had he bought in Coney Island, he would have seen it open. He would have, you know, my guess would have been he was very active in New York in between 63 and 65. That would have been the time, it would have been good for him to be acquiring land. And if you remember, a lot of those attractions were just moved to Florida or California. So he could have just moved those attractions right over. There wouldn't have been probably as much work there as there would have been here in Florida. But it would have been interesting, and I think that would have been his window. Right after the World's Fair closed in 65, it probably would have opened sometime in 66 in Brooklyn, and he would have seen it. And he didn't die till December of 66, so that would have been a nice thing for Walt to see that open up. But of course, if it did, we wouldn't have had Florida. But you know, we could have even still had Florida, who knows, because they had done a study back then, and they realized back in the early 60s that there was only 5% of the people who were in California were actually from the East Coast. So Walt was definitely opening something on the East Coast. So stay tuned, we're going to talk more about it. We're going to keep walking here around the Magic Kingdom, and I hope you're enjoying the video. So could you imagine this view in Coney Island? How awesome that would have been growing up in Brooklyn, seeing that. You know, so what was it that caused Disney not to open up in Coney Island? Well, a large part of it was the weather, and also when he formulated the deal for Florida with the Reedy Creek Improvement District that he designed and worked with, it was just too good of a deal to pass up, you know, having that blank canvas. But I wish they would have done something. I mean, even if they would have done a little bit of you know, a third of what maybe this is in Florida or something, it would have been great. Like I said, imagine how that would have changed all of our lives to have Disney right in our backyard. And it's incredible. So, you know, who knows? It's what could have been, that's for sure. So I'm standing here at the Carousel of Progress, one of the rides that Walt had in the 64-65 World's Fair. So even though it didn't open up in Brooklyn, you know, Brooklyn actually gave Walt a tremendous gift with Coney Island, because when Walt went to Coney Island to scope it out, it kind of put the fear of God in him, because Coney Island has had its ups and downs through the years, and when he went, like around 53, it was really in a really bad downturn. It was the time when people started taking airlines frequently, they started going to different places. So a lot of the beachside resorts like Coney Island and Asbury Park, places like that, they were really in a downturn. So when Walt went there, he was kind of horrified at some of the folks working there were kind of a little nasty. The costumes didn't match, obviously. Wasn't the cleanest of clean. He did enjoy the Nathan's hot dogs. He had really positive things to say about that. But overall, it put the fear of God in him. So the Disney customer service, or guest relations, as we all have come to know it over the years, we could thank Brooklyn for that, because Walt really saw what could happen if you really let guest relations slide, what could really happen, the disrepair, that something could go in. So you could actually thank Brooklyn for that. And, we'll take it, right? So it would have been great if it happened, but it didn't. Like I said, it would have changed all of our lives, even if they would have opened up something really small over there. But hey, you never know. Anything could happen, right? So we can positively look toward the future for good things to happen. And Coney Island is still magnificent and wonderful, even though Disney didn't open up there. There's a lot of folks that thank God it didn't happen. Coney Island is very kitschy, and it's very individual. And if one negative that Disney would have brought to it, it would have taken a lot of that individuality out of it. You wouldn't have had things like the mermaid plunge, and you might not have had the polar bear plunge. You might not have had the mermaid parade. You don't know what could have happened in that direction. So those would have been some negatives. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really had fun doing it. Please give me some suggestions and some comments. I'd really love that. Subscribe, that'd be awesome. So until the next time, this is Al signing off from Brooklyn Secrets and the Magic Kingdom. I'll see you next time. Love you guys. Take care.